Imagine trusting someone with your life, only to realize they've been planning your downfall all along. Family bonds are supposed to be unbreakable, built on love, trust, and loyalty. But what happens when that trust is nothing more than a mask hiding secrets, betrayal, and sinister intentions? Welcome to a story where blood isn't always thicker than water, and the line between family and foe is blurred in the most chilling way. This is a dark tale of deception, where a brother's twisted plans unravel in the most unexpected way, leaving a trail of lies, manipulation, and a crime so disturbing that it shocks everyone involved. It all starts in a quiet suburban neighborhood, where life seems picture-perfect on the outside. Two brothers, Ryan and Mark, grew up side by side, sharing childhood memories, laughter, and the struggles of growing up in a small town. Closed doors, their relationship was far from perfect. Ryan, the elder brother, always carried a protective charm, winning people over with his easygoing personality. Mark, on the other hand, was quieter, more observant, calculating even. While everyone saw him as the loyal younger sibling, those who truly paid attention noticed something unsettling about the way he watched and waited, as if he was always a step ahead in a game only he knew the rules to, predicted what was coming. At first, the signs were small things disappearing, conversations shifting in ways that made Ryan second-guess his own memories. Then, there were the financial inconsistencies, the unusual late-night calls Mark claimed were just work, and the moments where his mask seemed to slip, revealing flashes of something colder beneath. Ryan wanted to believe it was all in his head. This was his brother. But when an innocent accident leads to the discovery of a hidden folder on Mark's laptop, one filled with disturbing plans, confidential documents, and detailed outlines of actions that could only be described as a blueprint for something sinister, Ryan realizes he's been living with someone he never really knew. As he pieces the clues together, one thing becomes clear. Mark isn't just keeping secrets. He's orchestrating something terrifying, something irreversible. And Ryan? He's about to find out just how far his brother is willing to go to get what he wants. But will he figure it out before it's too late? Or has Mark already set his final plan into motion? Ryan's mind raced as he stared at the files on Mark's laptop, his pulse hammering in his ears. Every word, every detail, every carefully laid out step pointed to something dark, something deliberate. But before he could process the full weight of what he had just uncovered, the screen suddenly went black. The laptop shut off without warning, as if triggered remotely. Panic shot through him. Was Mark watching? Did he somehow know Ryan had found his secret? His hands trembled as he pressed the power button, but the device refused to turn back on. Just as he was about to grab his phone to take a picture of what little he had seen, a noise from outside made him freeze. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, approaching the house. Ryan quickly shut the laptop, his heart pounding as he tried to listen. But after a few tense moments, the sound faded, leaving behind an eerie silence that felt heavier than before. The next morning, Ryan woke to find that Mark's laptop was gone. At first, he thought maybe Mark had taken it himself, but then he noticed something even more disturbing. His own desk drawer, the one where he had been keeping a small journal of strange incidents and suspicions, was slightly open. The journal was missing. Someone had been in his room. A sickening realization washed over him. Someone didn't just want to keep their secrets hidden, they wanted to make sure Ryan had nothing to prove them wrong. Determined not to back down, Ryan turned to the only person he thought he could trust, his childhood best friend, Ethan, who had known both brothers since they were kids. When Ryan explained everything, Ethan listened carefully, but instead of the expected shock, there was hesitation in his eyes, like he already knew more than he was letting on. "Look, man," Ethan finally said, glancing around as if making sure no one else could hear. "Maybe you should just let this go. Some things, they don't end well when you start digging too deep." His tone was firm, almost like a warning. Ryan narrowed his eyes. "You're telling me to ignore the fact that my own brother might be plotting something dangerous?" Ethan exhaled sharply and rubbed the back of his neck, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by an unsettling seriousness. "I'm telling you that not everything is what it seems. Just be careful." And with that, he walked away, leaving Ryan with more questions than answers. As Ryan tried to make sense of it all, another memory surfaced, one he hadn't thought about in years. A night from their teenage years, when he had woken up to the sound of hushed voices downstairs. He had crept to the top of the stairs and seen Mark, barely 16 at the time, whispering urgently to their father. Something about a deal, about keeping quiet, about how no one else could ever know. Their father had looked troubled, but then he had nodded, muttered something about protecting the family, and that was it. Ryan had been too young to understand, and by morning, it was as if the conversation had never happened. But now, after everything, he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Mark had been involved in back then might be connected to what was happening now. The pieces were falling into place, but something still wasn't right. Someone had taken the evidence from his room. Ethan's warning didn't sit well with him. And that old memory, was it just a coincidence, or was it the key to everything? As Ryan dug deeper, one thing became terrifyingly clear. He wasn't just uncovering Mark's secrets. He was stepping into something much bigger, something that had been buried for years. And someone, maybe more than one person, was making sure the truth never saw the light of day. Then, just as Ryan was about to confront Mark face to face, his phone buzzed with an unknown number. He hesitated before answering, his grip tightening around the device. The voice on the other end was low and steady, completely unfamiliar. "Stop looking, Ryan, or you won't like what you find." The call ended before he could respond. Cold dread settled over him. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. This was a warning, and whoever sent it was watching his every move. Ryan sat frozen, gripping his phone as the silence after the mysterious call felt heavier than the words themselves. His mind raced with possibilities. Who was behind the warning? Was it Mark? Someone working with him? Or was this even bigger than he thought? Before he could process it, his phone buzzed again this time. A text from someone he hadn't spoken to in years. "Check your email. You need to see this." The sender's name made his stomach tighten. Claire. Claire had once been close to both Ryan and Mark, back when they were all just teenagers figuring out life together. She had dated Mark briefly, but after an abrupt and messy breakup, she vanished from their lives without explanation. Ryan had never thought much about it, assuming it was just another failed high school romance. But now, after years of silence, she was reaching out. And on the same night, he'd received a threat to stop digging. Something wasn't right. He opened his laptop, his hands slightly shaking as he logged into his email. Sure enough, there was a message from Claire, no subject line, just a single attachment. He hesitated for a second before clicking on it, and the moment the file opened, his blood ran cold. It was an old newspaper article, dated nearly 10 years ago, from a town he didn't recognize. The headline read, "LOCALBUSINESSO WNERDISAPPE ARSLAAET DAUAED EEEDAY EDEAEDAY UAEDAE ETAIA." The article detailed how a small-time investor had vanished under mysterious circumstances, and though there were no confirmed suspects, a witness had reported seeing the man arguing with two young boys in a parking lot the night he disappeared. There were no names, no arrests, and no follow-up reports. But then, at the bottom of the page, was a grainy, low-resolution security camera still. Two blurry figures stood next to the missing man's car. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. Even through the distortion, he could tell the taller one was Mark. His mind reeled. Why had Claire sent him this? Did she know something about the disappearance? Was Mark somehow involved? And if so, why had no one ever talked about it? Before he could type a response, another text came through from Claire. I never told you the real reason I left. We need to talk, but not over the phone. It's not safe. Ryan felt a pit form in his stomach. This wasn't just about Mark anymore. There was something deeper, something hidden in the past, that he had completely overlooked. But before he could even set up a meeting with Claire, another problem surfaced, one that made everything even murkier. Ethan called him, his voice tense. Dude, I don't know what's going on, but I just got a weird message. No name, no number, just a single line. Stay out of it before you end up like him. Ryan's pulse quickened. Like him? Did that mean the missing businessman? Or was this a warning about someone else? Do you think Mark's behind this? Ryan asked, but Ethan hesitated before answering. I don't know, man. I used to think I knew him, but now, I don't trust anything anymore. Ryan clenched his jaw, a sinking realization settling in. Someone was trying to control the narrative, to erase the past, and keep him from uncovering the truth. But now, with Claire's warning, Ethan's threat, and the newspaper article, the mystery was only growing more tangled. If Mark was involved in something all those years ago, was their father covering for him? And if so, how far had this deception gone? As Ryan tried to make sense of it all, his laptop screen suddenly flickered, then went black. A message appeared in the center of the screen, typed out in stark white letters. YOUERENEVOSADTOKENOW. The screen blinked off completely. Ryan's heart pounded. Someone had hacked into his system. Someone was watching. And now, more than ever, he knew he wasn't just chasing the truth. He was being hunted for it. Ryan's body tensed as he stared at the darkened laptop screen, his own reflection barely visible in the black void. The message was gone, but the fear it planted was spreading like wildfire through his mind. His breathing was shallow, his palms slick with sweat. Someone had infiltrated his system, someone who knew exactly what he was looking for and wanted him to stop. But what scared him even more was the realization that this wasn't just about uncovering the truth anymore. It was about survival. Because if they could get into his laptop this easily, what else could they do? A sudden sound from outside shattered the silence. A faint shuffling, too deliberate to be the wind, too slow to be a passerby. Ryan's heart slammed against his ribs as he carefully stood, forcing himself to move quietly. He crept toward the window, his breath caught in his throat, as he peered out into the dimly lit street. At first, there was nothing, just the empty sidewalk and the distant glow of a street lamp. But then movement. A shadow just beyond the edge of the light, lingering too long to be a coincidence. He couldn't make out a face, but the way the figure stood, still and watching, made his skin crawl. His mind screamed at him to do something. But what? Call the police? And tell them what, that his laptop had been hacked and a shadowy figure was lurking outside. They'd write it off as paranoia. He forced himself to step back from the window, his fingers gripping his phone so tightly it felt like it might crack. He needed to talk to Claire. Now, he called her number, pacing the room as it rang, but there was no answer. He tried again. Still, nothing. Anxiety twisted in his gut. She had been the one to reach out to him first. She had known something. And now, when he needed her the most, she had gone silent. His mind spun with possibilities. Had someone gotten to her? Was she in danger? Or worse, had she been working against him this whole time? The thought made him feel sick, but before he could even process it, his phone buzzed with a text. Claire, I need to see you. It's worse than I thought. Meet me at the old train station. Come alone. Ryan's stomach tightened. Something about the message felt wrong. The train station was barely used anymore, an old industrial spot on the outskirts of town, abandoned after the freight company shut down. Why there? Why not a public place? He considered ignoring it, waiting until daylight, but deep down, he knew he couldn't. If Claire was truly in danger, if she had answers, he had to go. But as he grabbed his keys and stepped outside, his skin prickled with unease. The shadow by the street lamp was gone. The drive to the train station felt like it stretched forever. The roads were dark, barely lit by occasional streetlights, and the further he drove, the more isolated it became. His grip on the steering wheel tightened as his mind replayed every warning, every threat, every strange moment leading up to this. Was he walking into a trap? When he finally arrived, the place was eerily silent. The old station loomed ahead, its metal beams rusted with time, the broken windows like empty eyes staring into the night. He stepped out of his car, his heartbeat drumming in his ears. No sign of Claire, no sign of anyone, just the wind, carrying the faint scent of rain and old metal. He pulled out his phone and texted her. "I'm here. Where are you?" Seconds passed, then a minute. Nothing. Just as he was about to turn back, something caught his eye near the entrance of the station, a small object, barely visible under the dim glow of a flickering light. He stepped closer, dread curling in his stomach. His breath hitched as he realized what it was. A phone. Claire's phone. The screen was cracked, the edges scuffed as if it had been dropped or ripped from her hands. Ryan bent down, his fingers hesitating before picking it up. The moment he did, the screen lit up with a single unread message, sent just minutes ago. It wasn't from him. It wasn't from Claire. It was from an unknown number. "You should have stayed out of this." Ryan's blood turned ice cold. The words burned into his mind, each one a confirmation that he had gone too far. Claire was gone. Someone had taken her. And now they were letting him know he was next. Ryan's pulse pounded as he gripped Claire's cracked phone, his mind racing through every worst-case scenario. Someone had taken her, or worse. And now they were taunting him. But as his fingers trembled over the screen, an idea struck him. If Claire's phone was still here, maybe there was something on it they hadn't had time to erase. He turned it over, desperately pressing the power button. The screen flickered, barely holding on to life, but just enough to show her last open app, a voice recorder. His stomach twisted. Claire must have known she was in danger. She had been recording something. Heart hammering, he tapped play. At first, there was nothing but static and faint rustling, as if she had been moving while recording. Then, her hushed, frantic whisper filled the speaker. "I was wrong. It's not just Mark. It was never just Mark." Ryan's breath caught in his throat. The sound of hurried footsteps echoed in the background of the recording, followed by the faint beeping of a car unlocking. Then her voice, more urgent this time. "Ryan, if you get this, don't trust a sharp noise, cut her off." A scuffle, a gasp, and then silence. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. Claire had tried to warn him, but she hadn't gotten the chance to say who. Not just Mark. Then who else? His father? Ethan? Someone he hadn't even considered? He was still reeling from the weight of it all when his phone buzzed again, this time. A call. Ethan. Ryan hesitated, his gut twisting with uncertainty. He didn't know who to trust anymore. But if Ethan was involved, wouldn't he have stayed quiet? Wouldn't he have disappeared like Claire? He answered, keeping his voice steady. "Where are you?" Ethan's voice came through, urgent and strained. "Ryan, listen to me. I know what's going on. I know who's behind this." Ryan's grip on the phone tightened. "Then tell me, who took Claire?" A heavy pause. Then Ethan's voice, low and deliberate. "She's not missing." The words hit like a punch to the gut. No, that couldn't be right. Claire had sounded terrified. She had sent the newspaper article. She had been taken, hadn't she? But then, the pieces started shifting in his mind, falling into place in ways he hadn't considered before. Claire had been the one to reach out first. She had led him to that abandoned train station. Her phone had just happened to be left behind, perfectly placed for him to find. And then there was the recording cut off at the exact moment before she could name a name. What if she had been setting him up all along? Ethan's voice pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. Ryan, she's part of it. The whole thing. And she's not working alone. Ryan swallowed hard, every instinct in him screaming to deny it. But deep down, something told him Ethan wasn't lying. Then who? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. A car engine rumbled in the background on Ethan's end, like he was on the move. Meet me at the old motel off Route 6. I'll tell you everything, but you need to get off the grid now. If Claire set you up, they're watching you. The call ended before Ryan could respond. His chest felt tight, his thoughts tangled in a storm of betrayal and confusion. If Claire had been lying, then what was real? What about Mark? What about the threats, the break-ins, the messages? Had she been feeding him breadcrumbs, leading him exactly where she wanted? And if she was part of this, then who else was? Ryan turned toward his car, his every movement now laced with paranoia. His whole life, he had thought the danger was in uncovering the truth. But now he realized the real danger had been standing right beside him all along. Ryan gripped the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white, his mind racing as he sped down the empty highway toward the old motel. The weight of everything pressed against his chest, making it harder to breathe. Claire had been part of this, or at least, that's what Ethan was claiming. But if she was working against him, then why had she sent the recording? Why had she sounded so desperate? Was it all an act? The thought made his stomach churn. He had trusted her. Even when she had vanished from his life years ago, he had never questioned that she was on his side. But now, nothing felt certain anymore. Ryan killed his engine and stepped out cautiously, every nerve in his body screaming at him to be ready for anything. He moved toward the car, but before he could knock on the window, Ethan pushed the door open and motioned for him to get in. The moment Ryan slid into the passenger seat, he felt the tension radiating off Ethan. His friend's face was pale, his eyes darting toward the rearview mirror every few seconds, like he was expecting someone to come for them. Ryan didn't waste time. Tell me everything. Now? Ethan let out a shaky breath, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. It was never about Mark, he said, voice low. Not really. He was involved, sure, but he was just a pawn. Just like you. Ryan's stomach twisted. Then who's pulling the strings? Ethan turned to look at him, and for the first time, Ryan saw something that sent a chill through him, genuine fear. Your father. The world seemed to tilt. Ryan shook his head, his mind instantly rejecting the idea. No, that doesn't make any sense. My dad, he's strict, sure, but he's not. He couldn't even finish the sentence. Because deep down, in the darkest corner of his mind, hadn't he always felt like something was off? The way his father always had an answer for everything, always knew exactly how to cover things up, how to redirect suspicion. The way Mark had never faced consequences for anything, no matter how bad it was. You're lying, Ryan whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. Ethan clenched his jaw. I wish I was. But I've seen the proof. Your dad's been covering for Mark for years. That guy in the newspaper article? The one who went missing? He didn't just disappear, Ryan. Your dad made sure of that. And Claire. Ethan hesitated, like he didn't want to say it. Claire wasn't just warning you. She was trying to keep you from making the same mistake she did. She was part of it once, but she tried to back out. That's why she left. That's why she ran. And now, they have her again. Ryan felt like he couldn't breathe. His father. His own father. The man who had raised him, who had taught him everything he knew about strength, about discipline, about control. Had it all been a lie? And if Ethan was telling the truth, if his father really had that kind of power, then what did that mean for Ryan? His whole life, he had thought he was just trying to uncover a hidden past. But now, he realized he was trapped in it. Before he could even process what to do next, Ethan grabbed his arm. "Ryan, listen to me. You have two choices. You can walk away right now. Pretend you never knew any of this. Let it die with Claire. Or," he swallowed hard, "or we take them down. Your father, Mark, everyone involved. But if we do that, there's no going back. They will come after us." Ryan's hands trembled as he stared at Ethan. Walk away. Forget everything. Save himself. Or fight back, knowing that once he did, there was no escaping what came next. He had spent so long chasing the truth, but now that he had it, he wasn't sure he was ready for what it meant. Because the moment he made his choice, his life would never be the same. And as the weight of it all crushed down on him, only one thing was certain. No matter what he decided, someone was going to die. Ryan's breath came fast and shallow, his mind a storm of thoughts that crashed violently against each other. His father, Claire, Mark, the lies, the deception, the realization that his entire life had been a carefully constructed illusion. He wanted to believe there was still a way out, still a version of reality, where he wasn't standing at the center of a deadly conspiracy orchestrated by the man who had raised him. But Ethan's words echoed in his mind, the weight of them pressing down on his chest like a vice. The moment he decided to fight back, he would be marked. And yet, as much as he wanted to turn away, to pretend none of this was happening, one fact remained: Claire was still out there. And if everything Ethan had said was true, then she was more than just a pawn in this game. She was a warning of what happened when someone tried to walk away. Ryan clenched his fists, forcing his thoughts to steady. "Tell me everything you know," he said, his voice firmer now, sharper. If he was going to do this, if he was going to go up against people who had spent their entire lives staying in the shadows, he needed to know exactly what he was dealing with. Ethan hesitated, but then he pulled out his phone and swiped through a set of messages before handing it over. Ryan's stomach dropped as he scanned the screen. Dozens of messages from unknown numbers, conversations filled with coded phrases and carefully worded threats. At first, they seemed random, but as he scrolled, he realized something chilling: these weren't just about Mark or his father. They were about him. Ryan froze as his own name jumped out at him in message after message. "He's getting too close. If he doesn't stop, we make him stop. Does he know about the warehouse yet? Get Claire to lead him there." His grip tightened on the phone. The messages weren't new. Some were from months ago. That meant they had been watching him long before he even realized something was wrong. Long before Claire ever reached out. She had been part of it, but not in the way he'd thought. She hadn't just known what was happening. She had been forced into guiding him exactly where they wanted. His stomach twisted as a sickening realization hit him. "Ethan," he said, his voice barely above a whisper, "they never wanted me to stop. They wanted me to find something." Ethan's expression darkened. "What do you mean?" Ryan's mind raced, piecing together fragments of conversations, warnings, and dead ends. Every time he had gotten too close, someone had pushed him toward another clue, another lead. The break-in at his apartment, the deleted message, the abandoned train station, none of it had been meant to stop him. It had all been meant to guide him. They had let him uncover this, step by step, revealing only what they wanted him to see. But why? And then it hit him. "They needed a fall guy," Ryan whispered, his blood running cold. They knew someone would eventually start asking questions, and they needed someone to take the blame when it all fell apart. He turned to Ethan, his heart pounding in his chest. It was never about protecting Mark. It was never about covering up a single crime. It was about making sure that when everything finally came crashing down, I was the one left standing in the wreckage. Ethan's face went pale. "Ryan, we need to go. Now." But it was already too late. A sharp knock sounded against the window, and Ryan barely had time to turn before the glass shattered. A strong arm yanked him out of the car, dragging him into the cold night air. His body hit the ground hard, the breath knocked from his lungs as rough hands pinned him down. His vision blurred, his pulse roaring in his ears as a shadow loomed over him. Then a voice, cold and familiar, cut through the chaos. "Ryan," his father said, his tone almost disappointed. "I warned you not to dig too deep." And just like that, everything went black. Ryan's head throbbed as he drifted back to consciousness, his body aching against the cold, hard floor beneath him. His vision swam, darkness stretching out before him in all directions. The air was thick with dust, and the faint hum of distant machinery buzzed somewhere above him. He was underground, some kind of basement or warehouse. His hands were bound, the rough bite of zip ties cutting into his wrists. He forced himself to take slow, steady breaths, ignoring the sharp sting of a wound on his temple. He didn't remember the exact moment he blacked out, but the voice, the one voice he never expected to betray him, still echoed in his mind. His father. A door creaked open, spilling dim light into the room, and heavy footsteps approached. Ryan tensed as the shadow of a man stretched across the floor, growing larger until it stopped just in front of him. When he finally lifted his gaze, his father stood there, arms crossed, watching him with an expression that was almost unreadable. But beneath the cool, detached exterior, there was something else, something Ryan had never truly seen before. Control. Power. The quiet, unwavering confidence of a man who had spent years ensuring he was untouchable. "I was hoping you'd be smarter than this," his father said, his voice calm, almost bored. "But you never learned when to leave things alone." Ryan swallowed the bile rising in his throat, his pulse pounding against his ribs. "You set me up," he rasped, his throat dry. "This whole thing. The clues. The threats. Claire." His stomach twisted at the memory of her voice on the recording. "You made me think she was in danger when all along, she was just another part of your game." His father sighed, shaking his head. "You give me too much credit. Claire wasn't supposed to reach out to you. That was her mistake. And now, she's paying for it." Ryan's body tensed. "Where is she?" His father tilted his head, considering him for a moment. "You still don't get it, do you?" He took a slow step forward, crouching so he was eye level with his son. "This was never about Mark. It was never about Claire. It was always about you." Ryan's stomach twisted, the weight of the truth crashing down on him all at once. It wasn't just about covering up past crimes. It wasn't just about silencing loose ends. His father had been creating a loose end him. Every step he had taken, every clue he had uncovered, had been carefully placed to paint him as the real threat. Mark had been the distraction. Claire had been the bait. And Ryan? He was the scapegoat. His father reached into his jacket, pulling out a small, worn notebook. He held it up between two fingers. This belonged to Daniel Carter. The name sent a shockwave through Ryan. The missing journalist. The man from the newspaper article. The one who had first started digging into Mark's crimes. "You thought you were following his trail," his father continued, his voice smooth, controlled. "But really, you were finishing what he started. Only now, when the authorities do uncover the truth, all the evidence leads back to you." Ryan's blood ran cold. He could see it now. The break-ins at his apartment. The deleted files. The messages that made it seem like he was the one chasing shadows. His father had been orchestrating all of it. And now, with Carter's notebook in his possession, all the proof, all the names, all the dirty secrets, everything was about to be tied to him. Ryan's pulse roared in his ears, but he forced himself to stay still, to think. His father was always a step ahead, always in control. But not this time. Ryan had one advantage. His father thought he was broken, desperate, defeated. But he wasn't. He was angry. And that meant he still had a chance. He let his shoulders sag, exhaling shakily. "You win," he murmured. "You always win." His father smirked, satisfied. That was his mistake. With all the force he could muster, Ryan kicked his legs out, knocking his father off balance just enough for him to lurch forward, grabbing the notebook with his bound hands. He twisted violently, rolling onto his knees just as his father lunged toward him. But before he could react, a gunshot shattered the air. Ryan froze, his heartbeat slamming against his ribs as his father staggered backward, a stunned expression crossing his face. Blood bloomed across his crisp dress shirt. He gasped, reaching out as if to grab onto something, but his knees buckled and he collapsed onto the floor. Ryan whipped around, his breath catching in his throat. Claire stood in the doorway, the gun still trembling in her hands. Her face was streaked with sweat and dirt, her eyes wide with shock. She had hesitated, but she had still pulled the trigger. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then her voice, hoarse and filled with something between relief and horror, broke the silence. "We need to go. Now." Ryan swallowed hard, the notebook still clutched in his hands. His father lay motionless on the ground, the man who had built an empire of lies, finally brought down by the very people he had tried to destroy. But as he stared at Claire, a single gut-wrenching thought cut through the chaos. If she was really on his side, how had she found him? And then another realization, far worse. She had aimed for his father's chest, not his head. Ryan's stomach turned to ice. His father wasn't dead. Not yet. And if he woke up, the real game would begin. The night air was thick, with the scent of rain-soaked pavement and burning rubber, as Ryan and Claire sped down the deserted highway, the city lights shrinking behind them. Neither of them had spoken since they left the warehouse, the weight of everything that had just happened, pressing down like a storm cloud that refused to break. Ryan's knuckles were white against the steering wheel, his mind racing with questions that had no easy answers. His father was alive, that much he knew. The moment they fled, he had checked for a pulse, barely able to process the relief and terror that came with knowing the man who had orchestrated his downfall still had breath in his lungs. But Claire had known that too. She had fired that shot deliberately, ensuring he was down but not out. And that meant she had a plan, one she hadn't shared with him. The notebook sat on the dashboard, its edges worn and frayed, holding the last remnants of a story that had cost too many people their lives. Inside, the truth was written in ink, names, places, dates, all the pieces of a puzzle that had been scattered, waiting for someone to put them back together. Daniel Carter had died for what was inside that notebook. Mark had been silenced for it. And now, Ryan had the final piece. The question was, what was he supposed to do with it? If he exposed the truth, if he handed it over to the authorities, would it even matter? His father's reach went beyond anything he could have imagined. He had seen it firsthand, the way men in suits had moved in shadows, the way records had been wiped clean as if they had never existed, the way people had disappeared without a trace. His father hadn't just built an empire, he had built a system. And systems didn't collapse just because you wanted them to. Claire shifted in the passenger seat, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. "You're thinking about what happens next," she said finally, her voice quiet but steady. Ryan exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel tighter. "There is no next," he muttered. "Even if I take this to someone, even if I try to fight back, he'll find a way out."